what's up?
Hi.
Hello.
Hey guys, I'm here. Hold on one second. I got to get a couple of things set up. Right back.
Okay. Oh, you dyed your hair.
Yeah,
It looks cool.
thanks. I was going for black, but the bleached part just went blue.
I thought it was purple.
Yeah, it's somewhere in between.
It looks awesome. Yeah. It looks kind of like dark purple. It looks really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, guys. Sorry about it being late. Had a little bit of a technical hiccup. Had to get everything rebooted and started back up.
Oh, no worries.
All right. So who do we have? We've got Karen and Andres and
Yeah.
Tessa.
Yeah.
Tessa, have you talked to Rebecca at all since class?
I've talked to Rebecca. I divided up the scenes so that we could come up with lighting plans.
Okay.
Yeah, I
How are you
haven't
dividing
heard
them
from
up?
them.
How are you dividing up the scenes? What's your game plan for in terms of
I divided them up mostly by location and then by time.
okay?
So on the day that
I guess what I'm asking is, do you have a list of which scenes you're covering and which scenes Rebecca's covering?
yeah, I have them in a document. Do you want me to share that document?
When you when you get a chance, if you could go ahead and email the that document to me, that would be great. That way we
Okay.
can start. I can start talking to you about specifics for each of the scenes.
Okay.
And I think after today's meeting, you may have a better idea about the approach that we're going to take.
Okay.
Okay. Karen, or
What was that?
have you guys, Karen, have you talked to
Yes.
Jeremy this week?
Yes. He and I actually were the ones that came up with the casting breakdown. And him, Andres, and I decided to split the film into 3 parts.
Okay.
So, yeah. I
Okay.
started doing some of the somebody's trying to get on the
On the Google, on the other
yeah.
Hangout. I sent her that. I think that's Rebecca, isn't it?
Yeah.
I sent her the link, so she should be able to. If you want to text her, just tell her to click the link that I just sent, and she should be able to get in.
Yeah, so I started breaking down the script, how you showed us how to do it.
Right. So Karen, you're
But
taking the first 8 scenes.
yes.
Okay, so 1 through 8, and then Jeremy
1 through 8.
is going to take the middle.
Yeah, 9 through 17.
And then 18 through 26 is
Andres.
Andres. Now, have you guys had a chance to look over the blue pages of the script, the new the changes? Okay.
Yeah.
The first thing I want to talk about are are there any lingering story concerns that you have?
No, I think that got pretty covered when they added the scenes.
Okay, so those
like
scenes, so you feel pretty good about the script at this point. There will still be some tweaking about dialogue, and I'm actually thinking that one of the issues that was raised by the writers and was that why didn't they kill, or why didn't the beast kill Von Ensign.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if maybe adding a little bit of dialogue when he's reading the book in the hotel room that might explain that, you know, if you look directly at the monster, you lose your mind or something like that. It might be a way to handle it, and if it's even necessary. But that's something. Things like tweaking dialogue we can do all the way up through the day of shooting. So I'm not really too worried about that.
Yeah, because that was on Monday. That's what Jeremy and I were concerned about, was how we justify him not being killed. So if we were to add some dialogue, that maybe justifies, why he's still alive, that would be. I feel like that would be a much clearer storyline.
Okay. All right. So, do you know if Jeremy's going to make the meeting, or?
I thought he was going to. He texted me earlier about the scenes, but I'm not sure if he got the email.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the breakdowns themselves. Have you each had a chance to look at, and I'm talking to the director specifically, have you had a chance to look at the video that I posted that talks about how you find the heart of each scene?
I haven't had a chance to look at it. I was going to take a look at it later in the day.
Okay. So Karen, you have. Did you find it helpful in terms of finding out the direction for each scene, or figuring out? Okay. So what I would like to do is, I don't want to go through the entire script simply because it will take too long to do that individually. But I did want to talk about the overall, some of the overall important beats within the story itself, right? And then you guys can spend some time working on the individual beats. All right, so I want to know from the directors where you think some of the critical moments in the story are. What are some of the really important moments that that we need to be aware of?
Overall in the script?
Overall in the overall story arc, not the individual scenes.
I think overall, definitely, in the beginning, it would be Von Etzen on the train for sure. Him meeting Newlander.
Okay, so hold on one second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a Google Doc, and I'm going to share it with you guys. Can you guys all see that?
Yeah.
All right. What I'll do is I'm going to take some notes. Use this sort of like a whiteboard, and then I'll save it and send you guys copies of it so you all have notes from the meeting. So important story points. Okay, and so Karen, you're saying that in scene 2, where he meets Newlander. Okay, and so what do you feel that does story-wise, or why is that important story-wise?
Well, for sure, even like how you said in the video, foreshadowing.
Right.
So it foreshadows that there's something dangerous going on in Tempest.
So it sets up an unknown evil, something bad about to happen. All right, and so I want to take this moment here to kind of go off on a little bit of a discussion about the horror genre and suspense and the way some of the more important things in this genre. So a lot of people think that a good horror film is all about hold on one second.
Hello?
You there? I'm getting a Hangout call from
It says Dreamer.
Yeah, from all right, hold on a second.
Hello?
Are you... Hello?
Yeah.
Hello.
Is this Rebecca? Okay. All right, enough of that. Let's stop that.
Like that stuff.
Okay. Hopefully that will. Okay. All right. So back to this. Okay. All right. So everybody there? All right, hold on. I have to reinvite so
does your hair
I just
match your
resent
sweater?
the invitation to Rebecca. All right, so one of the things that's really important about setting up the horror genre, a lot of people think of it as really spooky monsters and gore and blood and guts. But the key, and I think one of the greatest masters of setting up suspense was Alfred Hitchcock. And there are a couple of things that I think that the directors and the DPs need to keep in mind when you're thinking about both blocking the scenes and the lighting and the way we're going to set our cameras up. And that is happen. And the technique that that Alfred Hitchcock used quite frequently was this idea that you give the audience something that the characters don't know about. Okay. And the example that that Alfred Hitchcock always uses is if I have somebody jump out from a closet and stab somebody, that's scary for a heartbeat, for a moment. The shock of that happening on screen is very scary. And there's value in that. And in horror films, there's always going to be some of that. But the more scary part is setting something up and building the anticipation for the audience. And so the example would be if we see two people engaged in a conversation and we as the audience know that there is a time bomb under the chair of one of the participants of the conversation. They don't know it, but we do. And so we spend the entire conversation worried about whether or not this thing is going to blow up. It builds the suspense. Are you there? Hello?
Oh, okay. I can hear you guys.
Okay. And so what we want to try to do with our camera and with the way we block our scenes is try to build that suspense. One of the in horror films or in the horror suspense genre is this implication that there's an unseen evil lurking. And one of the ways that we do this is by creating a POV camera. In other words, we make it feel as if we're being watched, right? We see shots that appear like they're being shot through something, or from behind a chair, or from behind an object that sort of gives us this feeling that there's somebody watching. And then, and for us, that somebody could be the creature. So a perfect example of this would be maybe in one of the Von Ensign hotel room scenes, after we introduce the idea that there's a monster in our midst. Maybe the way we frame it is to give us this sense of a POV of the monster, or there's somebody lurking. And I know that you've all had this experience in watching a movie where you immediately feel like, oh, there's somebody watching, or there's something going on. And I think that's a very sense within our story that we can kind of pay off in the next to the last scenes. Okay, do you guys have any thoughts on that?
That's a pretty cool idea.
Tessa and Rebecca, so for you guys, it's going to be thinking about the different camera angles that can help bring that about. Now, we don't want to overuse it, right? And there are very particular moments when we would probably want to use it, but overusing it's going to cause it to it's going to lose its effect, right? Mm-hmm. And so be thinking, as you're going through your different scenes, be thinking about what opportunities there might be for that. One of the things that one opportunity that jumps to mind is in the newspaper office before Emma gets murdered. That could be an opportunity to to use that technique in order to kind of enhance the sense of. And I think what we had talked about doing. Hold on one second. I got it. mute my mic a minute. Sorry, I had to cough there. I didn't want to cough in everybody's ears. Is kind of leave it open-ended for the audience as to whether or not the sheriff killed Emma or whether it was perhaps the monster, because we added that scene where we find the where we find the mutilated body.
I think Karen's trying to get back in.
Yeah, I'm sending her a link now. So Tessa, Rebecca, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's really good.
Okay. When we get the
Okay, there. Sorry.
okay, when we get the have that for you guys a little bit later this week. I'll have some rough sketches of the actual floor layout of how the scenes are going to be set up, so you can start thinking about how you're going to move your actors in the space and how the camera is going to interrelate to that. So I should have that a little bit later on this week. That'll give you a better idea of the space that you're dealing with. But thinking about this, foreshadowing, this setting up this notion of this unseen evil that we see sort of in the bathroom at night, and then we see the shadow on the wall in the newspaper office, and then of course Emma disappears or gets murdered.
Yeah.
All right, so directors, where else do you see what are some other really important key moments? You know, obviously the final scene where the beast kills the baby is, sort of like the climax, so that goes without saying. But what are some other really important story points that we want to make sure our camera and our blocking emphasizes?
I think also the scene with the townspeople and with Ichabod Smith.
Right.
That part's kind of like everyone's in on it, so that's kind of a big.
Right. So what role do you are you thinking? I mean, how does that factor into the overall story arc?
I think it pieces the whole story together, which is why they are doing what they're doing. Like, so.
Right. And so when I talked about when I spoke in the tutorial about this idea of foreshadowing, scene 2 foreshadows the other scene with the townspeople. And I don't remember the actual number of the scene, is more of an expositional where it gives us story information that we need.
Yeah.
And things like the lottery's here to protect people. We're not really sure about what the lottery does yet, but it certainly is a pivotal moment in terms of understanding the story. And so I would agree that scene is really important for exposition. I would agree that also the scene in the newspaper office where Emma gives information to Von Ensign is also expositional. And so I think that those, when we're thinking about that, remember, one thing to keep in mind is expositional scenes can be somewhat boring because, we're trying to get information out, and that ends up usually coming in the form of an information dump. So as you're going about blocking these scenes, be thinking about how you can interject some sort of a little bit of a more visual, some more visual interest in a scene that can be otherwise somewhat stagnant. Okay. And then we also have a pretty strong expositional scene in the saloon, but it's also
foreshadowing
because ends up disappearing, right? Or he ends up being escorted away, and so we know that that's really something really, really bad is going to happen to Zeb. And of course we pay that off in the next scene when we see him in the hat box in the hallway. So I know we're a little we didn't have a whole lot of time because of the technical problem. So I want to find out from you guys, the directors first, and then I'll talk to the DPs. But What are some of your thoughts? I mean, I want to know, you've had a couple of days and a week or so to sort of digest the script. And so I want to know some of your big, I don't want to say concerns, but what I want to know is, from a director's perspective, what are your thoughts on how we approach this script? We talked last week about the realistic visual approach, but in terms of the other elements of the director's craft, what are you thinking? So I'll hear from let me hear from Andres first.
Can you clear up your question a little bit more?
As a director, what are you thinking in terms of, what are some of your concerns with the script? And I'm not worried about the technical stuff, that, how we create the monster and stuff like that. That's for another day. For today, I want to think, what do you see as a director, some of the hurdles that you're going to have to overcome in terms of this script?
I can't really think of any, to be honest with you.
Okay, Karen?
I think for me will probably be like trying to get like the intention of the characters, trying to make it clear. I think that's going to be, for me.
Which intention? What do you mean?
Just like some of the scenes, it's mostly just shot, like they're just being shot. So for me, it would be like scene number 4, and it's when Emma and Von Ensign are walking through the town,
right?
And just trying to make that clear visually, trying to get that from the actors, I guess, as well.
You're concerned about how we're going to block it, or you're concerned about making sure that the audience understands what's happening?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what is it that you're afraid they're not going to understand?
I mean, I think for me, it's just because we're going to be shooting this outside with the actors, but I mean, we have a lot of like a lot of the information that the writer has given us. Just trying to make that, trying to
so
get
give
that.
me an example of information that the writer has given us that is going to be difficult to make clear.
So right here, in the window, there's a sign announcing the lottery scheduled for tomorrow. And then it says, according to the sign, it seems to be a regularly scheduled event. So trying to like show that it's a thing that they're doing consistently, I think that trying to get that point across is going to be, well, for me, it's a concern.
So what you're identifying here is that some of the story information needs to come from production design elements. For example, the sign in the sheriff's office window, and the tightrope that we sort of have to thread there is, we want to make it clear to the audience, but we also don't want to go over the head with it. And so the way that we would accomplish something like that is, and the way we'll shoot it is, when Emma and Von Ensign are in front of the newspaper office, we'll shoot it so that the backdrop is the sheriff's office, and we can see the sign over one or other of their shoulders. And so that becomes sort of the backdrop that the audience will see, and then they may or may not pick up on it then. But then we see it in the saloon again, and one of the set design pieces that we're going to create is, there's going to be a big cloth banner that's going to be across the street, that hangs across the street as they walk down it, that says lottery Sunday, or whatever date it ends up being. And so those 3 moments, when the audience sees the sign, we're not holding it in their face saying, look, there's a lottery, but they see it 3 times, and then that's one of those cues that they're going to pick up. And so we'll make those elements clear in the way that we shoot the scene, in terms of making sure that it's visually perceptible, but it's not something that is being, We don't do a close up of the sign that says.
Mm-hmm. No, of course not. You don't want to like spoon feed it to them either. Yeah, you got to give that element of.
Does that help clear up some?
No, yeah, that does. Yeah, but for me, that was one of the concerns. Was like, how do we make it seem like it's a regularly it's a regular thing?
I had an idea.
Okay.
That scene where Von Etten's walking with his sister.
Right.
How about if they're walking on one side of the street and the camera's on the other side of the street trucking, and there's a flyer on the pole, and then he just happens
Andres, I think that's a really great idea. That's something that we could definitely that might be the way to go, because I think that to shoot those particular exterior shots, I think the way to do it quickly and efficiently would be to do it in some sort of a dolly or a trucking setup where we can follow the characters as they do their dialogue. And then that would be a great way to incorporate that. Yeah, is maybe, we have the sign on the sheriff's office, but we also have one on one of the posts as we sort of truck past it, and the audience sees it again.
And then perhaps maybe the sign could say time for the weekly or bi-weekly raffle, so that way.
And that's also going to be part of how we come up with the production design element of the sign itself, what we want it to say. Again, we want it to be clear, but not crystal clear, because we want the audience to have to put some of these pieces together for themselves.
For sure.
So DPs, what I'm going to be doing over the next few days is I'm going to be finishing up the set layouts, and then I will give you, I'll give everybody top set layout so that you have an idea of the space that we're going to be lighting. And then when we meet next week, I want to start talking about, the lighting, the basic idea of, where's the motivating source coming from?
Actually, in the document I just shared with you, I listed possible, or what was explicitly stated in the script, the motivating sources for.
Awesome. That's great. That's a really good start. And then, so what we'll do is we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about the different lighting instruments that we might want to use and the different techniques. One of the things that we're going to be doing throughout the story is we're going to be using fog and smoke, because one of the elements that I think will really help sell this is that I call it the Ridley Scott effect, and that's the use of the atmospherics. And if you think of Blade Runner, or if you look at the Alien series, there's a tremendous use of these atmospherics that make the light even more visible to the audience, and I think those. It gives a sense of dirtiness and smokiness and grittiness to the image. And so in the lookbook that I'm putting together, I've included a couple of shots to give you an idea of what I think from a visual aspect is the direction we should be going.
Especially, there's a lot of use of moonlight, or like very specific moonlight, and that'll show a lot more with fog.
We can do a lot with by adding those atmospherics. Okay. Before I sign off for this one, any other thoughts, you guys? I don't want to keep you guys past 1:30.
I do have a couple questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
The scheduled time on the sheet that you gave us said that it would run till 7 p.m.
Oh, you mean on our shooting days?
Yeah, was that?
Yeah, our shooting days are going to be longer. The actual on-set shooting days are going to be longer in order to get our 82.5 hours, and in order to get the amount of work done that we're going to need done. Okay? I know you have a class, and so if you have to leave early, then we'll work it out.
Okay.
But that you may need to come in. If you can come in a couple hours early, and we can do the pre-light or whatever, or if we, I'm going to be posting a schedule of extra makeup days to be able to come and help build the set and get the set dressing ready and stuff like that. And so there'll be plenty of hours. There'll be plenty of opportunities for people to make up the hours if they can't stay.
I have Lawson's class right before, and then the class of Ventura right after, but I'll come in any other days I can.
Yeah, no problem. Like I'm probably going to be scheduling once we get ready to do the shooting. I'm probably going to be scheduling construction days on Fridays for a few hours, where anybody who's available and needs some extra hours can come in and help me put together the sets.
Okay.
And then we'll do, things like if we need to build a couple extra flats, or if we need to dress the set or paint or do stuff like that. And so there'll be plenty of hours to be able to make up.
Great. And then there was a group launch assignment on Canvas that said it was
Yeah,
due
ignore that.
tonight.
That was from a previous course that just got transferred over when I imported everything, and I just haven't had a chance to go in and do it.
Just wanted to clear that up. Thank you very much.
No problem. Any other questions, guys?
No.
Okay, I've got your casting breakdown. It looks good. I'll make a few minor tweaks. There are some of those there are some of those roles that we're not actually not going to advertise because it's not important for them to come in and read for them. I will select some sides for each of the main characters to prepare, and then once I've got that done, I'll be posting the notice early this week on LA Casting, so that we can start getting some submissions from some actors that are interested in coming in and auditioning. Okay. And I sent out an email. I don't know if you guys got it, but we've got 2 of the music students who are going to be working with.
Oh yeah.
They're going to be working with Scott in the music department. They're going to be composing original score for the film. And so I'm going to be meeting with them probably later this week to talk about what their thoughts are. They've both got copies of the script, and so I kind of want to get their thoughts on how they see the music supporting the film. So from the directors, if you could be thinking about, some film music that you're drawn to, in particular, if genre, think about what it is that draws you to that. Why are you interested in that particular piece of music? And then that way it'll give us sort of a language that we can talk to the composers with.
Okay.
All right. Any last minute questions or thoughts?
None on my part.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. So we'll follow up a little bit tomorrow during class. I'll talk a little bit about a couple of other things. It's not major stuff. It's and it's just a couple of things that we need to nail down before we move forward. Like I said, I should have some actual overhead plans of the sets that we're going to be using.
Okay.
All right.
Cool. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you for hanging out. And again, I apologize for getting a late start because of the technical stuff. But I think it was still very productive. Okay.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I'll be posting this little sheet here on the website, and if you need it, cool. There's not a whole lot of stuff there, but it kind of refresh your memory about what we covered. Okay.
Cool.
All right, guys. I'm going to sign off. See you tomorrow.
See you.
Bye.